Basant Shinde, who is the co-author of the genetic studies Indus Civilization, is joining us live on the broadcast. Morning, sir. Thank you for joining us on NewsX. Sir, first question, how was the DNA from the Rakhagadi burial discovered in the first place?
See, the site of Rakhagadi is located in Hisar district of Haryana. And we have been working on this site for last 7 years. But the actual, the excavation of burial started in 2015, and for two years, we collected the samples. See, what is interesting here that I excavated another, a site called Parmana before, and I failed to get DNA from the, from that particular site because perhaps our method was not right. Then I was, I came in contact with some of the Koreans and the Japanese scientists, and they suggested that if you change your methodology, perhaps you will be able to get. So we changed that, and in spite of the fact that the climate is not really good, conducive for the growth, for the preservation of the DNA in this part, we were fortunate to get DNA. From one skeletal remain, very strong DNA. We excavated nearly 40 burials, and there were very weak signatures in fact of DNA in 5 burials, but they were not really sufficient to get or reach to any conclusion. And finally, this particular woman, in fact, that you mentioned, it is 4,500 years old, from belonging to the Harappan Civilisation. And finally, we could get DNA. So we have taken really proper precaution and all this for this particular purpose.
And sir, how is this DNA different from other samples from Iran and other places?
See, the gene of these people, we compared with contemporary world, in fact, from Iran, from steppe region, and also from the Middle East, and we found that the gene of these people are completely different from the gene of Iranians and the Central Asians and the Middle East people, and they are very close to the gene of the of the Andamanese hunter-gatherers. So it is quite clear that this particular ancestry is derived from the hunter-gatherers of this region. And then, of course, there is a continuity. The same people continued. They began settled way of life. They began domestication, and also the established village life. And then there is a gradual growth, in fact, and they are the same people have established the Harappan civilization. So this is how the gene is quite clear, in fact. Even though we have one sample, it clearly indicates the ancestry of the people, in fact. So we have found that the ancestry of these people is different, a typical South Asian, and these indigenous people, they are responsible for most of the development that we talk about. Some of the scholars had mentioned earlier that most of the developments happen because of the influence coming from the West or from the Iranian plateau, but that is not true, in fact. On the other hand, perhaps the influence started going from South Asia to Iran and to Middle East and even to Central Asia. At the site of Gonur, in fact, which is located in Turkmenistan in Central Asia, we have found, in fact, some Harappan material and some Harappan people. So that indicates that the Harappans have started moving, in fact, towards the west and towards Central Asia. So this is very interesting that the local people who are responsible for most of the developments, and they are the people, in fact, who are very adventurous. In fact, they started moving to different parts of the world, in fact. So that is very, very important. So it puts put to rest, in fact, some of the earlier hypotheses. Now this is a very important that earlier hypotheses were made purely on inference basis. There were no strong evidence, in fact, for putting this hypothesis. But now we have found very scientific data, in fact, and the genetic data as well as the archaeological data clearly indicates, of course, this particular development. So
Yes.
now, the scientific data which is accepted by all over the world, in fact, now that should be, the base of, our studies now.
And so what does this indicate about indigenous transformation of ancient Indians from pastoral to farmers and city builders?
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned, that, these are the people who transform, or, who transited from hunting gathering to agriculture stage. And then, there are a couple of sites, in fact, in Indian subcontinent, in fact. There is one site called Mehergarh, in fact, which is located in Pakistan, in Balochistan part of Pakistan. And in the Saraswati basin, of course, there are half a dozen sites which have produced sufficient evidence, in fact, indicating that, the beginning is, very much, there is origin of the, most of the traditions, beginning of this. And there is a gradual growth, in fact. This is quite clear, in fact, in the archaeological data. So that data, is available, and, we have, that data is really available to anyone, in fact, who wants to investigate. So that data is very important. That data itself indicates the, local origin and then gradual growth. Ultimately, this particular growth is transformed into the Harappan Civilization around 2500 BC. And after the Harappan Civilization also, there is a continuity. And even today, in fact, we can see this continuity almost all over South Asia, right from Andaman to Kashmir and from Afghanistan to Bengal. So we find this particular continuity all over. So it is quite clear now from this particular evidence that the, most of the South Asians, in fact, there was no division, in fact, Aryan or Dravidian, in fact, in the past. So most of the South Asians have common ancestry. And that is very important. There may be diversity, of course, regional diversity within that, but the ancestry is very important, and that continues till modern times. So
Right.
we connect ourselves to the past, and there's a great history, in fact, both, in fact, in
And
the
sir-
genealogical part as well as in archaeological history also.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.